Good afternoon. I just thought I'd take a minute whilst going for a little walk on one of my work breaks to share a little something. And I've been asked loads of questions about how to revise during Ramadan, how to revise when you've got not enough, you haven't done enough revision already, how to revise when you feel like you don't really know what you're doing. And so I thought I'd add a topic to that conversation and how to revise when you're sick, because I took a weekend off for the first time in probably maybe nearly 2 months. I had a weekend when I wasn't working, and as soon as I start to relax, Sunday night, I start getting sick. Yeah, who else is sick out there? It's the summer. It's been glorious weather all week, although you can see the sky behind me now. It's not that wonderful now. So I thought I would add a few little tips and advice. I've got huge amounts of work to be doing at the moment. Yeah, you're fasting. Yeah, it's also lots and lots of people right now in Ramadan. So right now I'm like, my symptoms started with super sore throat, and I could feel the eustachian tubes, the tubes that connect your ears to your throat. They were all kind of getting a little bit, a bit inflamed and sore. It's now moved on. I've got more of a cough now. And just like I can feel it in my muscles. I know I thought maybe I'd shake it off, but now I was sitting at my desk all day today, and I could just feel my body seizing up. So I've just gone for a little walk. So first thing, I'm nicely togged up, got lots of clothing on. If I got lots of layers, so if I do suddenly get all warm and shivery, then I can rip off a few layers of clothing. So how did I cope with today? Basically, today I set myself smaller concentration span targets than normal. Normally I'll try and work for, personally I know I get to about 90 minutes without too much break in concentration, and then I get a little bit sidetracked. Today I was doing like more Pomodoro, more 25 minutes, because after about 15-20 minutes, I just find myself staring into space. I wasn't overly distracted, like I wasn't playing with my phone or, looking out the window. I was just staring into space. So shorter concentration spans. Also, there were some jobs that I really didn't want to do. It's really dark in here. And so basically I just told myself, okay, you're not going to do a particularly good job of them. Do the things that you kind of wanted to do. I prioritized the things that were less crappy and did some of them, because I figured that I'd have a bit more motivation to complete those. Also, I had to take lots of breaks. It was important to schedule my day so that I knew that I could have a solid lunch break. I knew that I could. I just downgraded my expectations today. I didn't want to finish the day and feel like I'd achieved nothing, which is so easy to do when you're revising, right? It's so easy to feel like you're not getting anything done. And it's nice to set a realistic target, achieve it, call it a day, and then you can then relax, go to bed early. I mean, get some rest. Last night I had a call with Australia from 11 o'clock till midnight, so I was really planning on going to bed early, because I could feel it getting worse. But yeah, I had to stay awake until after 12, because I had to be on the phone to Australia. And then it kind of kicked in full force this morning. So I think maybe if I'd had a bit more rest, personally, whether it's anecdotal or not, when I used to work in the Bolivian rainforest, I used to walk a puma every day, 20 k's through the Bolivian rainforest, and we weren't allowed to wear mosquito repellent because occasionally some of the cats will lick your hands. The puma that I worked with was not that friendly, was not a hand licker. But anyway, you weren't allowed to wear mosquito repellent, and you'd count the species of mosquitoes on your skin. You wouldn't count how many. You'd be like, oh, there's the small little black ones, there's the small black ones with the little blue bits on the wings, there's the massive ones, there's the brown ones, there's the ones with weird wings with frinny bits on the wings. So basically the solution was to eat loads of raw garlic, and to basically use the garlic your sweat would start smelling of garlic, 6 cloves a day, raw, crushed up, swallowed with water. But I found that I had loads of cuts. Running through the jungle tied to a puma means that you got, all the normal jungle rules where you don't touch the trees because they're covered in spikes, they might have insects or snakes on them. All those rules, I can tell you, go out the window when you're tied to an adult male puma and he's charging through the jungle and you've got to follow him. So I had loads of cuts and snicks on my hands, and you're in the rainforest, it was wet season, it was super warm and humid, and things got infected really easily. And so the first first few weeks, I had like, yeah, cuts getting out of control, just like infections. And so I started eating garlic, and effectively they all cleared up. So it definitely had some antibiotic response. So I'm a bit of a believer in garlic from just purely anecdotal evidence. Because I believe in it, then the placebo effect will kick in. If you believe in something, then it will help you, regardless of whether it's a sugar pill or whether it's a dummy pill, whatever it is. So if you actually invest in it. Right, okay, so that's what I'd say. Garlic, personally, raw garlic, chop up a clove in the morning, crush it really small, scoop it in, brave, hold your nose, throw some water down. Oh, how have I got low power again? It's always when I come out to do a little walk. Other tips, get some exercise, do a little bit of walking, like just even if it's around the block, which is basically what I'm doing right now. I'm just going up to the park, bit of a 360 next to the skate park. Yeah, so that would also be a top tip. Set yourself manageable targets, nice and small, so you don't feel like you're beating yourself up for not achieving everything. You're sick. Make sure you get loads of rest, drink lots of water. And I mean, diet has been a big thing for me over the last month or two. I've made sure I've been eating loads of vegetables, basically. I mean, I feel like I'm a better human when I eat vegetables, and I feel like that's the main difference. Of all the things I've tried in terms of changing my diet, I think eating more vegetables basically has been a massive thing in terms of how I feel and how I feel better. So how are you guys feeling? Who's doing their AS exam, their final paper 2 AS exam on Monday? Any of you actually doing your ASs? Most students are not doing their AS exams, so most of you will have your paper 1, your final A levels, coming up fairly soon. I can't see a chat here. I wonder if I can pull up a chat window. Top chat, live chat. All messages are visible. Let's try that. So how was paper 1? You have paper 1 A level coming up. Yeah, so it was the AS paper 1 that's been and done. Oh, it's bloody starting to rain, isn't it? Just what you need when you're feeling sick. But I've got my ski jacket on, my Gore-Tex ski jacket. I'm well enough prepared. Am I on Australian summer? It's sort of English summer, although you wouldn't know it from the rain. Yesterday you would have known it. I am in full British summer, which is why I'm wearing all my loads of layers and lots of rain jackets. Paper 1 was mostly recall rather than application. Well, that's nice. Students generally prefer recall rather than application. Although, interestingly, the feedback from exams last year was that students actually performed slightly better on the application questions than they did on the recall questions, which is always basically what students say. They much prefer just the recall because you can just sort of memorize it and regurgitate stuff. I am British, but I did live in Australia, hence the slightly bastardized accent. Yeah, I lived in Australia for a couple of years in right on the beach. Can you still hear me? I'm probably covering up my microphone. Oh, I've just got a raindrop bang on the camera. There you go. I can't see the comments. The screen's so wet. Yeah, the A-level papers do tend to be a lot more recall than the AS papers. They're expecting you at that point to be able to sort of pull together the different strands of like what happens when I'm on 10%. If I just randomly disappear, it's because my battery dies. This phone is pretty old. I need to probably upgrade it, but I can't afford it, so I'll keep going for the time being. Yeah, so the A2 papers are going to expect you to do a little bit more in terms of application, because they're expecting you to tie all those loose ends together, basically. Revision now. Oh God, I've got all just covered in rain. Yeah, I would say you're going to be using past papers as the core to your revision right now, basically. And then you're going to identify with your past papers, like, is it topic knowledge that you're lacking? Is it that you don't know it? In which case, go back and learn the topics. And if it's application, then try and look at that question and see if you can draw the links, like how and why did they get to that answer? Because analysing those mark schemes is going to be the best way for you to understand how the examiner's mind works. You've done all the past paper questions. What now? Have you tried the old spec past paper questions or the past paper questions from the other exam boards? You need to learn all of year 12 topics in a week. My honest advice here would be to use the course. I've had students complete my entire AS course in 4 days, I think. Well, in fact, someone has done it in 24 hours, but I'm sure they probably didn't absorb all that much of it. Oh dear, got some nice shimminess going on over there. So yeah, check out the course for that, basically. It's probably the quickest way of actually getting knowledge into your head. I can't see the comments, they've gone to the live chat. Let's pause under a tree and maybe wipe my screen a bit. Where are we up to? 3 questions on drawing, which were quite easy. That's all nice. So I'm just covering the screen here. You haven't started A2, but you've done most of the course. Okay, well, you'll be pretty well. Standard deviation, AS biology. Check out, just search, open up all those past papers and search for standard deviation and pull up all the questions you can do on standard deviation. Stage micrometer, there is a video on the stage micrometer, how to use the eyepiece graticule and the stage micrometer. Basically, you're using, it's kind of trippy effects going on over here. It looks like I'm like some explorer in the wilderness from the 19th century, although they probably didn't wear Gore-Tex. So yeah, stage micrometer and eyepiece graticule. The eyepiece graticule is going to measure a different amount depending on how magnified you are. If you're looking at an object through times 10 or times 100, then it's gonna, that unit is going to be different. A2 isn't even English. No video on binary fission. I can probably fix that tonight. I've got the video back from from the editor. The binary fission is super easy for those AQA students. So I can tell you right now, you've got the singular loop of DNA is going to replicate, so that's going to double, and then you're going to have one piece is going to move to one end of the cell, one piece is going to move to the other end of the cell. You might get a mark for saying that the pili are going to, not the pili, sorry, the plasmids are going to replicate as well, and they're going to be equally distributed around the cell, and then the cell is going to divide down the middle. So it's going to go through cytokinesis, or cell is going to cleave in half, and then you get a mark for saying that one piece of the loop of DNA is in each half. That's it. When's the next lecture for paid subscribers? Do I dare the rain a bit more? Yeah, I've not got much battery, I may as well. I booked this week off because I thought I was going to be traveling around the world this week in terms of visiting some people in different countries. I thought I was going to go back to Canada. So I left this week free. What I think I'm going to do is going to do some web classes. Obviously, my throat is pretty sore right now. I'm quite happy that I don't have to be talking for 90 minutes in a web class. The next one I think is a week on Monday, although there's a chance I'm actually going to change that date because it's going to clash. It's the day before the next chemistry paper, and I've had a group of students request it move to the day before the day before. Oh, I don't know any of the dates off the top of my head. I'm useless. I should know. I've got too many dates in my head. I've got all the maths exams, all the chemistry exams, all the biology exams, all the different web classes. Yeah, check the revision web class series. That will tell you when the next live web class is for paid subscribers. I literally can't read the screen. Yeah, A2 is not next week, the week after. Yeah, you're totally right. But I think the next web class is definitely next week sometime. Tips for AQA. I mean, all the exam boards, exam technique is pretty much the same deal, to be perfectly honest with you. You've got multiple choice in the OCR and Edexcel papers. There's very little multiple choice in gene linkage. I can maybe come on to that. It's going to be impossible to go through on the phone, probably. Yeah, the multiple choice questions have a bit of a knack to them in terms of eliminating those ones you can eliminate straight away, double checking, cross-referencing, making educated guesses where you don't know. Like thinking about, what clues are there in the question which will help reveal, like, are they talking about a gamete, in which case it's probably going to be haploid, in which case it's going to have half the genetic material. So like trying to link together all those little bits and pieces that you know, and how making an educated guess for the questions that you're not 100% sure of. I can't find this. The chat's like disappear. How to study A2 biology. There's a full web class on the scientific article. Basically read it through, make sure you know all of the topics that are related to that article. Stay comments, stay. Gene linkage stuff. Homogametic. I think that said before it went off the screen. means two gametes that are the same, just decoding the word. It's not a word that I've seen come across in A-level past papers, so I wouldn't worry on too many of those details. Effectively, if it's not in my course, it's not something that they ask. It could come up in the context of a question where they explain that term, but it's not going to be something that they expect you to have knowledge of or give a definition of. The gene linkage stuff, get to grips with meiosis first. If you don't understand the principles of meiosis and how you end up with, if you don't know instantly what a homologous pair is, or how you end up with a haploid cell after two genetic divisions, then that's going to totally trip you up. So if you can't sort of draw out the stages of meiosis, and the new spec doesn't go into massive detail on meiosis, but if you effectively can't flow diagram out all of meiosis and then have it fertilized and then go through meiosis again, just like go through a few generations of meiosis, then you're going to really struggle with all that linkage stuff, because you're going to have to understand how two homologous chromosomes, if they cross over. So linkage is all about genes that are on the same chromosome. So how does that affect inheritance? It basically all comes back to the nuts and bolts of meiosis. I get this comments for like half a second and then it disappears. Apparently it's in the CR Set 2 paper. I don't know exactly what I can't even see the words. Stay with me, comments. Cancel. Okay. Predictions for the essay, the importance of is generally, that's not mandatory that they're going to have to start at the importance of. And try not to get run over here. I think we're going to be okay. So the importance of basically feeding, fighting, fucking, and fleeing. So those things are pretty important to an organism. So how does it help them get food? How does it help them compete intra and interspecific competition? How does it stop them avoid being eaten? And fleeing is that one. And how does it help them reproduce? How does it help them spread their genes? That's basically what it's all about. So, yeah, those things. So you can link into that. Those are the biological importances, and then try and set yourself a question for each paragraph. It's like, imagine like an 8-mark question in this paragraph. Describe and explain all the points here that relate to that question, and that's how you kind of build your paragraph structure. There's a full course on it. I wrote a course on the essay question. That's AQA students only. Oh, I can't even touch the screen now, it's so wet. Show me the chat. Okay. Grey boundaries below. Don't worry about the grey boundaries. There's nothing you can do about them. Get as many marks as you can. That's the game. This is crazy. What's going on? Bivalent chiasmata or chiastoma. Chiastoma is the crossing over point when you do during crossing over of meiosis. So the chiasmata or chiastoma, depending on how you want to pronounce it, is the crossing over point. Bivalence is not a term which I tend to use because it tends to confuse people more than it tends to clarify things. In all the old spec papers, it is not a term that you need to know. And yeah, I just Google bivalent if you want to know an answer, but I don't really want to go into it because it just ends up with confusion. Okay. Okay, so there's too many questions. Bivalent was used in last year's AS paper, but was it required knowledge? Which exam board was it in the AS paper? Predictions are a totally dangerous game. I'm not going to go down the field of the field of predictions. Like, there's stuff that comes up all the time. Yeah, do 10, if you haven't done 10 past papers already, pull your finger out and do another 10 past papers ASAP, because you will see there will be questions on enzymes, for sure. There will be questions on carbohydrates, for sure. There will be questions on parts of the course. You just know, over the course of your exams, they will be there. Like, they are my predictions. Do the stuff that comes up all the time. The things that come up less frequently are the things that you can maybe selectively revise or choose not to revise if you really don't have time. But again, if you're well enough prepared and with a week to go, you can still cover a lot of the course. It depends whether you have to reteach yourself the course or whether you have to refresh your memory. The difference between revising, as in like recapping it, or vising, like there's none of the re about it. You're doing it for the first time. I started this by basically saying, how to work when you're sick. So if you missed that bit, because I'm sick at the moment, and yeah, working when you're sick sucks, but there are, you know, just set yourself small manageable targets. Don't expect quite so much of yourself for that time. And oh, it's almost stopped raining. and yeah, take little exercise breaks, make sure you wrap up